Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Rachel Winstead, naturopathic physician and host of the ReBootology Health Podcast, an interview series with leading experts of highly effective natural solutions for the health and happiness challenges faced by the modern woman. Here at the ReBootology Podcast, we don't believe there are bad therapies, just therapies that aren't right for everyone, and we keep looking for better care options. We believe there's a place for both symptom relief and treating the root cause of illness in medicine, and that's why we are excited to be doing this series where we discuss different conditions and wellness approaches with experts in their field. Thank you for joining us for today's interview. Today we have Monica Paz with us. Monica, please say hello to our audience, and I'll give them some information about your impressive background.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me.
It's just my absolute pleasure. Monica Paz is here with us today. She's the founder and owner of Nourished Functional Nutrition, an evidence-based functional nutrition practice with the mission of empowering people to reclaim their health with holistic nutrition and lifestyle changes. Monica started her private practice to help people make sense of all the different options, protocols, and recommendations, and to deliver person-specific solutions that actually treat the cause of their symptoms. Monica has her master's in human nutrition after studying dietetics in college. Even with all this education, Monica realized that conventional standards in dietary training and nutrition failed to help many, many people. In fact, she was one of those not helped with the conventional care and endured years of pain, inflammation, gut issues, insomnia, blood sugar challenges, fatigue, hormone imbalances, and anxiety. Thankfully, Monica was able to heal her body and now uses those hard-won lessons to help others get to the root cause of their health challenges so that they can thrive. For more information, you can visit her website, which we will provide in the show notes below. Welcome, Monica Paz. I'm so excited you could join us today.
Thank you, Rachel. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
I also want to just remind everyone that we will not be answering questions during our live interview, but feel free to add comments and we will address them afterwards. Okay, Monica. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I've been a fan of your work for many, many years. And could you please tell us just a little bit about your health journey and how this brought you to functional nutrition?
Yes, again, thank you so much for having me, Rachel. So what happened was I was going into perimenopause. By the way, nobody tells you about perimenopause. It's happening to all of us and nobody talks about it. So, okay. So what did I do? I was feeling off. I was feeling very anxious, a lot of joint pain. Went to my doctor and he said, "You're just getting old." And I had all kinds of pain. So I started going to a physiatrist, a physical therapist, yoga therapy. I mean, I felt like I was researching on my own. He put me on an antidepressant, which quickly made me realize that was not for me. It gave me panic attacks. I'd never had a panic attack in my life. And then it was just a downward spiral. But through it all, I felt alone. I felt like I was in a different world. Everyone else was going about their business. And I was over here, white knuckling life and suffering, just weeping at the drop of a hat, irritable, and trying to do what I could with what I knew. At the time, I was working as a medical sales rep and I had to travel a lot. And during all those travels, it was just very intense and very stressful. And I just felt like I was going downhill, losing a lot of weight and anxious pretty much all the time. And so I went to see a naturopath, and she had a different take on things. And she was very caring, and she listened. I'd never had a doctor listen to me, and she validated what I was saying. And that just kind of piqued my interest. Um, Being cared for by someone who cared made a huge difference for me. And then I started thinking, I wonder if I could learn more about this as a dietitian, because I had given up that profession. I had given it up because I didn't agree with a lot of the conventional ways of going towards what I want to say, conventional food, like the food industry, very tied with that part of the dietetics profession.
The big brands,
Yes,
food
and
type things, that not
I,
food.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so I just realized I don't want to do that. That's why I was a medical sales instead. And through that, one of the naturopaths that I was seeing said to me, "What is stressing you out?" And I said, "My job." And she said, "Why don't you quit your job?" And I was like, "Oh, how can I possibly quit my job? It's my life. It's the bread and butter in our home." And they said, "Well, how about if you work here? We're getting ready to hire a dietitian." So lo and behold, a year later, I was working for them, and that triggered me to go into digging deep into root cause medicine and functional nutrition, not just dietetics, not just nutrition, but just why is this happening? I had never even thought about that. What are the triggers for all of these things that are happening to me and other women? And other women just fly through menopause. And then, of course, you just make that connection, right? But for me, blood sugar was a big deal because I realized that my blood sugar was increasing. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
I love that. I love that. I'm looking forward to all of your wisdom around that. I just want to say, there's a few things that in the medical realm that I wish I had a magic wand to fix. And menopause is a huge one. I wish I had a magic solution that I could just instantly make all of that better. But
Mhm.
thank goodness, as a naturopathic physician practicing functional integrative medicine, I have this amazing tool chest. It just involves things like diet and lifestyle and selective bioidentical hormones and botanicals. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky. It's not
Oh,
just antidepressants and, oh, deal with it. It's only a few years of your life and good
mhm.
luck. I'm just
Yes.
so grateful that you found a provider that heard you, validated how you were feeling, and didn't put you on yet another antidepressant, which triggered panic attacks and or other unwanted symptoms.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, blood sugar issues are definitely common in my experience, especially with my patient population. And I can't
Mhm.
wait to hear everything you've discovered from a functional medicine approach to helping your clients thrive. So, one area of your expertise, this helping people balance their blood sugar, could you talk a little bit about some of the common causes of blood sugar instability in individuals both with diabetes and without diabetes? Because I know that a lot of us, when we first start thinking about blood sugar going up and up and up, or just, hear blood sugar issues, we think, oh, they must have diabetes, or it's probably just they don't know what to eat. And I know it's more complicated than that. And I'd love to hear your experience and your expertise regarding
Mhm.
the blood sugar dysfunction and just fluctuations.
Mhm. Yes. So I was pretty in tune with blood sugar issues because my dad had diabetes and I watched him die from diabetes complications. And he used to say, "Oh, you're going to die of something. I might as well just, keep eating whatever I want." And I didn't have an answer. As a 21-year-old right out of college, I didn't have an answer for him. And when he died with neuropathy, which is um, a progressive degeneration of the nerves, and it's very painful to the point that we couldn't even hold his hand while he was dying. He was in so much pain. He was on dialysis, and he was just really consumed. But it took him like 4 years to die. By the time he wanted to die, it took about 4 years until he died. And I thought, nobody should have to go through this. So that was kind of on my radar. It's like, I will not be a diabetic. And I, like most people, I thought about blood sugar issues as diabetes. And then when my naturopath said, your blood sugar is elevated, I was horrified. And Rachel, I sat with that diagnosis for 2 years doing nothing. My blood sugar was elevated, and my thyroid markers were elevated.
Your antibodies or your TSH?
I couldn't think of, no, it was my antibodies. I couldn't think of. So anyway, she said, your antibodies for Hashimoto's are elevated and your blood sugar is elevated. And I thought, oh, I'm supposed to know what to do with that. I didn't know what to do with that. But I was panicked. I was just panicked. For 2 years, that kept swirling in my head. And she didn't give me anything to do, or, it's like, you're a dietitian, you should know what to do. Like, I won't eat sugar. But that was not it. I just realized I started in my anxiety. I realized that there was a connection between the anxiety and the blood sugar. And that connection is called cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that gets triggered when your blood sugar drops. And you may say, well, what's up with that? Your blood sugar is elevated. Your blood sugar is not dropping. No, anytime that your blood sugar peaks or it has a spike, then you're going to have a drop. When you have that drop, it's like an overreaction of the body. Then cortisol is triggered. And cortisol is the hormone that goes to the liver and says, knock, knock, you got to make more sugar. And consequently, the anxious person is going to have an elevated blood sugar level, because if you think of fight or flight, you're going to have to run. In order to run, the body's so smart that it says, okay, we need sugar in the blood at all times, because anytime now we're going to have to defend ourselves or run away. Mm-hmm. And so that gives you a consistent elevated blood sugar. Anytime you're stressed, and if you have chronic stress, your blood sugar is going to be elevated, your cortisol is going to be elevated. And it's a cascade. When you think about sugar and simple carbohydrates that increase your blood sugar, they're like the finger that flicks that first domino through this cascade of hormones that affects your estrogen, your progesterone, your cortisol, your insulin, everything, because insulin is the master hormone. It just gets triggered every single time we eat. And that's the other thing. I was taught as a dietitian, if you have hypoglycemia, which I had, again, that's an overreaction of the pancreas secreting too much insulin, your blood sugar drops. I've had that since I was a teenager. And
Me too.
And so I thought that I was supposed to eat small meals all day long. So I was munching on things all day long. I would grab a mandarin orange, pure sugar. Not that there's anything wrong with a mandarin orange, there's fiber in there, but when you have hypoglycemia and you're reactive to a high blood sugar spike, that just brings it down. Now, the key here is that the feeling of cortisol and anxiety is the same feeling of hypoglycemia. That feeling of impending doom of, I got to do something. It's like, okay, so for the average person, this translates into feeling hangry. When you feel angry and hungry at the same time, where people make jokes and say, oh, just get out of the way. She's hungry. She's got to eat. When she's hungry, she has to eat right now. And so all that, just over the years and through my experience and working with clients and patients, you start putting 2 and 2 together. It takes a while to put 2 and 2 together. And that's why I thought, oh my gosh, people have to know this. Because when you, number one, expand that time between meals rather than contract it like we've been told, you're allowing your body to just relax that insulin response. But that all comes before that is, what are you eating? So when you eat these meals, make sure that there is protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Anything to slow down the release of the insulin, because it's that insulin, that huge spike in insulin. When there's a spike in glucose, there's a spike in insulin, and that is a growth hormone. And what it does is it makes this sugar, that is the extra sugar in the blood, okay, we don't need this right now. Let's just package it up as fat and let's just store it. And it gets stored around the liver and in the abdominal area. And that's why we get to belly fat. And so that's, it's just a lot to say, but this is kind of like what made me realize that.
That's a really good point. Fat distribution changes based on cortisol challenges or excessive amounts of cortisol. I can't even tell you how many times I've had patients, women in particular, tell me, I've always been slender, or, my weight was always a healthy weight, or, I carried my weight in my thighs and my hips, but, I had kids, I hit menopause or perimenopause, and all of a sudden I have this tummy, and it's not like right after I had the kids, I had a flat tummy, or, I didn't really have a tummy after that. It's like, boom, why am I having all this weight gain in my torso? And it's stress. You're right. It just absolutely. So, dear listeners, if you are struggling with changing composition of your body and you're carrying more weight around your abdomen, it's worth investigating your cortisol levels. And also, this is something that can be done in a variety of ways. It could be added on to your annual labs. It could be done as a saliva test. There's urine tests to do this. And just find your local naturopathic physician or functional medicine, integrative medicine provider who has education, just like Monica Paz does, to help you interpret those labs or come to with that data and help you get your blood sugar balanced through balancing your cortisol response. Sorry, thank you so much for letting me do that little side note. But experts like you are really important for managing blood sugar and interpreting what is the blood sugar elevation, the weight gain in the torso really meaning. It's a symptom.
And I also wanted to say something that just kind of shook me to the core is that 8.9 out of 10 Americans have elevated blood sugar and don't know it. That's from the CDC. And that to me is staggering. Don't know it. These are not the people who have been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. They're the ones that don't know it. And I want to make a distinction between type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition, and type 2 diabetes, which is not an autoimmune condition. So we can really work on, and I work with people who are pre-diabetic, have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, any of these things that are in the prevention realm, preventing you from becoming diabetic.
One thing that you said many years ago that really stuck with me was about gut health and its connection to blood sugar and hormones. You mentioned that all of these milk alternatives and all these gelling agents, carrageenan and other things, really interrupted the gut microbiome. And the longer I am practicing and the more data that's coming out, and yes, I am a nerd, I read so many scientific studies, I am seeing this connection between gut health and all these gelling agents and things we're adding to food type substances. And I always think, Monica Paz was right. It does affect our gut health, because we now know that Akkermansia, a keystone species in our gut that governs metabolic function, is highly susceptible to things like our herbicides, pesticides, and these gelling agents, and it prevents it from thriving in our gut. And things that help it thrive, real food, prebiotic fibers, and polyphenol type rich foods. And I know that that's a passion of yours. Food is medicine to help treat metabolic syndrome. And I just wanted to acknowledge that you told the world, you told your patients about this. I heard you say this, I don't know, almost 8 years ago, maybe more. And I just want to say thank you for being so in tune, so aware, so early, because it's now that we're having the ability to prescribe compounded weight loss medications and really digging into the hormones and the microbiome that I am really understanding truly what you were telling me, and just not just me, but the world 8+ years ago. So I just want to say thank you for acknowledging that. And I'm sure it was not an easy. It's something that and I in hindsight are like, oh yeah, totally connected, but probably not easy for the layperson or someone who doesn't nerd out on science and research, like I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, and I think that we neglect the gut health, and the majority of people have gut issues. And so, what are we eating? What are we exposed to? How are we healing our guts? It's just so important. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a few of these symptoms of unstable blood sugar with the hangry, get out of her way, the cortisol response, the weight gain in the torso. But are there other key symptoms or signs to be aware of that could indicate unstable blood sugar levels?
Yes. So is one of the things to look for is this hunger that is insatiable, cravings, uncontrollable cravings, feeling extremely thirsty, having to urinate a lot, having yeast infections, skin infections. A lot of times, one of the things that is so important to understand is that everything in the body is connected. So you can't isolate anxiety from the gut, from the mind, from the skin. Everything is going to, and so anytime that there's gut dysfunction, you're going to see some kind of a skin rash. So if you have rashes, you can go to your dermatologist and get the creams and all that. And it's not, going to do very much until you dig deep into the root of the problem. And it usually starts in the gut. And regarding symptoms, is if you're waking up in the middle of the night, your blood sugar may be dipping, because if let's say you have a pasta dish before you go to bed with a glass of wine and a, piece of cake, you go to bed, your blood sugar was high when you went to bed, and then it starts going down, 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 and not to mention alcohol will do that too. And when your blood sugar dips, again, here comes cortisol, wakes you up in the middle of the night. And that's when your mind starts going and going and going, worrying about things. And, 2, 3 in the morning, you're up at 5 and just falling asleep at that time when you have to get up to go to work. That is something to look for. In that fatigue, that inability to exercise. For example, you exercise and you're wiped out. And just feeling like you cannot stop eating and like you're on a roller coaster, you're like in a cycle that you can't get out of.
So what I'm hearing you say is if you're going to have dessert, have the ice cream, which has fat and sugar. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. So sounds like you've put a lot of time and research into figuring out the food combinations for the clients you work with, and maybe more translatable to most people would do well with to help keep their blood sugar in a more narrow range, that they don't get that big spike that they metabolize, into the wee hours of the morning, and then have that surge of stress cortisol and the brain and body freaking out, needing more sugar and causing the wake up. I guess in my brain, I always think what would that look like? And I guess I always think with hormones for blood sugar things, it's like that sine wave that we see in calculus, or I'll just say in math. It's been many, many years since my undergrad when I did calc. And I guess my brain is always like, well, how do I help patients have it in that smallest sine wave that makes sense for them? And I think you already told us some solutions, which is protein and fiber and not too much sugar to kind of keep that sine wave in a healthy range. Is there any visual you could provide to us that maybe less weird, that more like real people think in than the sine wave, that little narrow range?
So it's really, when you think about it, it's unrealistic to think that you're never going to have an insulin spike or a blood sugar spike, because we eat a variety of foods, and we should. But there are certain things that you can have and do to minimize your glucose spikes. And that would be making sure that it always, when in doubt, always have a vegetable. So I try to have a vegetable at least at lunch and dinner. Sometimes I'll have a smoothie with vegetables in it. But one of the things that most people don't know is how much sugar there is in liquid drinks. So it's the same thing, but in drinks. So when you get a latte or you get a smoothie at a place and you have pineapple and orange and mango with not even protein. I remember we used to drink those smoothies, or what are they called, from some of these smoothie places.
Oh, like a Jamba Juice, or
a Jamba Juice. And I don't remember putting protein in those at all. Like,
or the quality of protein, if it was available, was not so good.
So anyway, when you have one of those things, your blood sugar just goes away. And too late, or you're going to be starving. So what we do instead is we have a smoothie that has vegetables. When you add vegetables like kale or even romaine lettuce and cucumbers or celery, whatever, to a smoothie, you add the protein and then the fruit, the berries, ideally, something that will give it a little bit of a sweet flavor, and something with fat, or even a banana, some avocado, some coconut milk with lots of fat. That just tends to bring your blood sugar more even, and it nourishes you. It will change your life to have a breakfast. Unfortunately, breakfast has been always these carbs, like if you think about our kids, how they have been indoctrinated, part of this nutritious breakfast,
Toast or Kellogg's cereal of some sort.
Yeah. And so it's the Fruit Loops, the milk, the orange juice, and the toast. Oh, and of course, in the 90s, it was, I don't know, if even
toaster strudel.
And then, skim milk. Don't have any fat, because fat is bad. And so what's left is carbs. And contrary to what most people believe, carbs are not a requirement of the body. So we don't really have a requirement for carbs. So you can cut back on your processed carbs all day long, and you're not going to be missing out on any nutrition. Substitute with complex carbs like vegetables, or squashes, sweet potatoes, or fruit, berries, bananas. And it all depends on the person too, how much fruit there, or how much protein,
how sensitive they are,
fiber, how sensitive they are. Yeah, exactly. But one of the keys is to have fiber ahead of sugar. Like if you're going to have rice, for example, in a meal, have your salad first, have your beans first, and your chicken, and then have that rice as kind of like dessert, because it's going to spike your blood sugar. If you don't want your blood sugar to spike, leave it till the end, because it's like a train. And so you have the slow train, which allows the sugar into the blood very slowly. And then you have the fast train. If you have the fast train ahead, let's say a glass of orange juice, blood sugar spikes up. Here comes the beans and in the chicken and the salad and everything else right behind. The blood sugar is already way at sky high. It doesn't matter what you eat after that. And so bring in all that fiber, bring in the fat, bring in, and we're talking healthy fats, real fats, not like processed oils like canola and safflower and sunflower, but healthy fats like avocado or olive oil, olives, that type of thing.
My favorite oils.
Mhm.
There is a lot to be said for choosing the quality of oil and choosing the quality of the food you eat. I love that. I hadn't heard of that. Eating your vegetables first before your carbohydrate portion of your meal. You can still have it, but
Yeah,
I love that. I'm
just
gonna.
kind of engulf it into fiber or
I've
healthy fats or proteins. And for me, protein is key. I mean, most women do not eat enough protein and
yeah.
lose so much protein as we age.
There's
Or so
more.
much muscle, you know.
There's a lot of data right now that says we should, as women, be eating 1.2 grams of protein for every kilogram of lean muscle we have, which is way more
Way
protein
more
than
than
most of us have. And that's to help us keep our bones strong and keep muscle mass so that, we don't fall and break a hip, which is, that's not on my long-term plan. And I love
yes.
that you mentioned protein and just needing more protein.
And,
Uh,
and muscle also becomes an endocrine organ. That's what the latest studies show,
oh, I love
meaning
that.
that it helps process all that sugar.
So if we have more muscle, we might have more metabolic flexibility to have more sweet treats,
Yes.
rice, other fun stuff. I love that. I've noticed that my kids, when and I do have two young kids, when they load up on rice, like last night we had rice and broccoli and marinated chicken. But when they start with the rice, or if they just eat the rice, because I've got a picky 5-year-old, it's like an emotional roller coaster more often than not in the evening. So it makes so much sense. And I'm wondering, can stress cause the cortisol levels to be up and down and then cause the blood sugar to be up and down? Or do you feel like it's more of a blood sugar instability affecting the cortisol levels? So could the cortisol levels stress out the blood sugar even with good
Oh yeah.
eating broccoli first?
Oh yeah. The stress can really affect the blood sugar, and it
Do you,
goes both ways.
both ways. Okay. Do you
Mhm.
feel like people, if they started eating more protein in their veggies first, would start to notice improvements within days?
Within
For
days, or
within
within,
days.
and even a meal in the next meal. I have been trialing a continuous glucose monitor. I did 6 weeks of that, and I was floored by how my blood sugar behaved when I didn't sleep enough or when I was stressed out. It's if anybody is struggling with prediabetes or insulin resistance, anything like that, it's so important to know what the blood sugar is doing according to what you're eating, what you're going through, because everything affects your blood sugar, especially stress, lack of sleep, the food that you eat, the exercise that you do or don't do.
I'm a big believer in data. So, listeners, this is gold here. You should definitely maybe start tracking, whether it's with a continuous glucose monitor or just journaling how you feel emotionally, physically, energy wise. How's your sleep? And look back at what you ate. Did you eat something that was a non protein sweet Jamba Juice smoothie? Or
Yeah.
so I think you've already I was going to ask about the impacts of blood sugar on mood and stress tolerance. And it sounds like you kind of already answered that, but do you have any other um, thoughts on the impact of blood sugar swings and mood and just our ability to handle everyday stress?
Yes, whenever we are, and you just have to experience it for yourself and become aware of what's happening in your body, but pay attention when you eat. Let's say you have a donut for breakfast with a cup of coffee. How do you feel versus when you go out on the weekend for brunch, where you get eggs and, sausage or bacon or ham or whatever, just more protein and perhaps some vegetables in there. And let's say if you don't drink orange juice and maybe you have a cup of tea and you don't drink coffee, like coffee is going to affect people differently. Like my mother can drink coffee. She actually drinks coffee with breakfast, lunch, and dinner right before bedtime. She has coffee and nothing. She sleeps like 10 hours a night. She's 92 and in great health, and she's fine. She's like, I think coffee runs through her veins. But some people are highly affected by coffee. And so if that is you, that is something to pay attention to, because that triggers the jitters, the cortisol. The cortisol is going to trigger the anxiety. And if you couple that with a donut or a pastry, let me tell you, you're in for a roller coaster. However, you could do this experiment one time. Wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to have at least 20 grams of protein. Now, 1 gram of protein, or the way you know how much protein you're having, is one egg has 7 grams of protein. A 3-ounce piece of meat, for every ounce of meat you have, or chicken or fish, you have 7 grams of protein. So if you have a 3-ounce piece of meat, like a hamburger, for example, you're going to have about 21 grams. And so that's about how much. Or you could do a scoop of protein powder, and that tells you in the container what it is, but it's going to be about 20.
I one thing I did for my health starting over a year ago, I was doing it sporadically before then, but every morning I start with my coffee with a scoop of collagen powder, which is 20 grams of protein, of hydrolyzed collagen. I'm not doing it for my skin. I'm not doing it for my joints. I'm doing it because my adrenals, my body feels good with more protein. And I love that 3-ounce serving of hamburger or whatever protein of choice y'all want.
3 eggs.
3 eggs. My patients, if they are working on losing weight or handling their stress, they will tell you, I say, sorry, it's blurred, but if you want to have some pep in your step, throw some collagen in your coffee. And it's life-changing. I will attest to that. 20 grams, magic. I love that.
Yes.
And so lots of great varieties out there.
Yeah. And you want to rotate your protein.
Oh, tell us about that.
So you want to rotate it because, especially collagen, because collagen is not a complete protein. And you may have an amino acid there that it's missing. And so those amino acids make a difference over time. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you round out that collagen powder with a complete protein, like an egg or some sausage or some bacon or some ham or something that is going to stick with you, and make sure that you have fiber and a healthy fat. Healthy fat. Avocados are great. They just go down easy in the morning, but you will feel like a different person.
Love
2 glasses of water, 2 glasses of water first thing in the morning. And get well hydrated, get your greens in, get your protein in. And you asked me, can people see a difference within days? They can see a difference that morning just by changing their breakfast, getting rid of the muffins and the waffles and the pancakes, and trying this. If you like plain Greek yogurt, it's high in protein. So that's something else that you can do. Just some yogurt with berries, with nuts.
And good cultures, good probiotic rich cultures, which help address stress responses.
Yeah. So you can do that and have the collagen in your coffee, and you will be a different person.
That's so cool. I love that advice about rotating proteins. Do you think it'd be sufficient for folks to incorporate other types of protein in later meals, or does it have to be with that breakfast meal if they're doing collagen in their coffee?
I'm sorry, what's
Do you think you
wait.
can make up for potential amino acid deficiencies by having it later in like lunch and dinner meals?
I think it has to do with a repeating protein that you're having day after day after day.
Okay.
And so if you want to round out your protein, just have some complete protein with the coffee
Okay.
and the collagen. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So many good clinical pearls. I'm going to have to start making some changes to the recommendations to my patients. I love it. I love interviewing smart people like you, Monica.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Could you explain a little bit the relationship between diet and exercise and our blood sugar levels, and maybe just offer a few observations you've noticed for yourself or for clients, patients you've worked with, to help them maintain good blood sugar levels in regards to diet and exercise?
Yes. So whenever you exercise, your body is initially going to have a surge of glucose because the body again knows that you're about to exercise, you're exercising. You may, if you were wearing a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, it may show a little bit of a spike, but then there's this really gradual balance that happens. And so exercising after meals is crucial, even 5 minutes. So let's say that you had your salad, you had your chicken and your broccoli and your rice in the right order, and you're wearing a CGM and you see that your blood sugar goes above 140 or whatever. And you go, oh boy. But you don't even have to, be measuring your blood sugar. Let's say you had a couple cookies after dinner and you know that your blood sugar is going to be it's going to have a little bit of a spike. All you have to do is put some music on and then dance or go for a walk around the neighborhood. And that is so crucial for health, overall health, just to move your body. But gentle moving after meals is crucial for blood sugar control.
Love it. Love that.
Mhm.
Sounds like also a good stress relief just to help our bodies, our brains unwind after a busy, busy day.
Yeah, there is an app that I really like. I found this just on a fluke. I don't know why, but it's called, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. It's I think it's like ReBoot Dance. I'll give you the name so that you can put it in the notes because I don't want to butcher it and not give the right name, but I'll give it to you. But it's an app that it has these dance moves. It's a whole bunch of people dancing. This woman is leading the group, and it's just like movement. It's like, let's march around the room. Now lift your arms and breathe and stop. And it's a 5-minute video. And so she has a series of 5-minute videos. So you can watch as many as you want. You can do as many as you want. And it's done in the comfort of your own home right there in front of the computer.
Which is nice when it's rainy and dark and yucky.
Rainy and dark. Yes. And you see other people moving, and it's a dance move. It's a dance video. And it doesn't matter how you move as long as you're moving your body.
That's true. That's true. So I've got a question. I know some of my patients confuse physical hunger, and emotional hunger. Does emotional hunger is that triggered by blood sugar instability? How could it feel different? Do they come on differently? Are there different cravings? Could you maybe parse out the difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger, or hunger from blood sugar hypoglycemia instability? Is there a difference?
Yes. So with emotional eating, if you think about eating, especially eating something sweet, there's a release of dopamine in the brain. There's a feeling of comfort that comes with that. And this goes back to neuroplasticity, which is retraining of the brain. Our body keeps the score. Our brains like to keep us safe. And a lot of times we have stories, things that have happened to us as children, or just an event where you felt threatened in some way, and you sought comfort in something. And in this case, I mean, it could be in some people, could be drugs, alcohol, whatever. But in this case, it would be food. And if that gave you comfort, that gave you that hit of dopamine, you're going to want to go there all the time. Excuse me, I got a cough real quick. So whenever you search for that comfort, the comfort comes. But what needs to happen, and one of the things that is so important, is the fact that a lot of times when we're seeking that comfort and we are feeling threatened or we need something to make us better, we're not present. And most of the time we're eating on the run. We're just, we come home, there's no food in the refrigerator, nobody has made dinner. There's the potato chips, or there's the ice cream, quart of ice cream. There's the TV, there's the couch, and you're just eating and watching the TV and hoping that something will change. By the time you wake up, you go, oh, did I eat all those potato chips? I'm still hungry. I feel terrible. I'm just going to go nap. And then that leads to something else. And so there's a process here, and the process is, involves a lot of psychological help. And there's a great book called Unwinding Anxiety. And he's a psychiatrist, he's an MD, and he's talking about just being present with the trigger, because the trigger is not the food, the trigger is the upset. Whatever upset you triggered you to go, oh, I need to go eat and comfort myself. But when we're present to the reward, which is what we get afterwards, then we realize we have to put those two together. It's like, okay, this did not comfort me for very long. And now I just ate a whole bag of Costco-sized potato chips. And now I'm feeling guilty. So then there's that cycle, right? But when you can go, the payoff is not worth, what I'm getting, then I need to be present. And so, okay, here are the potato chips. I'm feeling just really bad because whatever, I had a discussion with my husband or whatever. Here are the potato chips. I'm going to savor every potato chip. When I realize that this is no longer comforting me, I'm going to put it back. And by the process, when you do that, you realize, oh, okay, it's not doing what I thought it would do. Okay. And it's a process. It's a process.
So I think you said emotional eating is just trying to give you a reward sensation, and the hunger might just come out of the blue. It doesn't have to necessarily be this gradual, oh, I'm a little hungry. 30 minutes later, oh, I'm way more hungry. It's more of a, oh, I'm really hungry all of a sudden, or it could be more gradual, but it's a craving for something specific, something sweet, or I've noticed a lot of people enjoy cheesy things or dairy, macaroni and cheese pizza, cheese and crackers, America's comfort foods or foods like that. And it's like this intense thing, but you're saying it's okay, but to maybe put away the phone, turn off the TV, just be present with the food, whether it's the potato chips or the other comfort craving food, and check in with your body so that when it doesn't serve its purpose, it's done.
And forgive yourself. Yeah. Be in a forgiveness place where you can, away from that moment, you can say, okay, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. What is a better, bigger offer for me? perhaps bringing food, stopping at the deli at the grocery store where I can get myself a sandwich to take home. Just kind of being aware of, okay, what happened? I was upset. I got home. There was no food. All I could think about was the ice cream in the freezer. Okay, I'm eating the ice cream. I'm 10 bites into it. I am no longer tasting it. I know it's going to make me feel bad because I'm present now. I'm not somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to stop or not. I'm going to forgive myself. And what am I going to do next time? And so you just kind of start mapping out what is the behavior and then choose so that when you're rational, you have either food in the refrigerator, or you have a plan. You're going to stop at the grocery store on the way home and get real food. Go, oh, I see what's happening. I'm upset now. I want to go home and eat something. Maybe I'm not going to have ice cream in the refrigerator. Like it just depends. You just got to trial and error, but this is a process. And it may or may not be a blood sugar drop. But it all depends on when you start eating the protein, fiber, and fat and really feeling satiated, you're not going to have these cravings. And that's the bottom line, is that the blood sugar drops create cravings, and the cravings get you in that loop.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah.
So the other thing I was curious about, and I apologize for pestering you with all these questions, it's just so fascinating to hear your wonderful approach and insights. The other thing I was wondering about was, how significant is the role of hormone changes in blood sugar stability or instability? And how can people manage these fluctuations? I think I already know the answer because you've been telling us about it a couple times, but I'd love to still hear your response.
So when you think about insulin is a hormone, and all the hormones in the body connect with each other. They communicate. They send messages to each other. So when one hormone is out of control, all of them are. So this is like a concert. If the violinist is playing out of tune, the whole orchestra is playing out of tune. So it has everything to do. When your blood sugar is out of control, everything else is going to be out of whack, especially if you're going through menopause. Your hormones are already coming down, and you have an irregular hormone balance, female hormone. When your insulin is also out of balance, you have chaos. It affects your cortisol for sure, which affects your mood stability and everything else. So yes, it has a lot to do with hormone balance.
And you mentioned thyroid at the beginning of our interview.
Yes.
So all of it.
All of it. Yeah.
And would your advice be to start with the protein and fiber and hydrate?
Start at the very beginning, right? Because that's a big payoff. When you start with breakfast is what I would say.
Or start right now, guys. Don't wait till tomorrow. Start now.
If you can just manage your breakfast, just say, okay, from now on, I'm going to have this for breakfast. Just figure out what you can have that has about 20 grams of protein and start to notice. We go through life not noticing anything, but start to tune into your body and how you feel and go back. What did I eat? Oh, yeah, I had that, whatever it is. The latte for breakfast is 11 o'clock. I haven't eaten anything. That latte had a lot of sugar.
This is such a great interview. So many amazing details and actionable things that our listeners can start today. I love it. Monica, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners if they'd like to get a hold of you or work with you or do or read articles you've written or programs you're working on?
Yes, they can find me on social media, and
we'll put your social media handles in the links below.
Okay, thank you. And there you can just sign up to my newsletter and get all kinds of information on blood sugar issues and lifestyle changes. But the one thing that I want to leave them with is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It is not your fault that you're craving. It's not your fault that you're feeling bad or that you're not losing weight. It's not your fault. We just need to get to the root causes. And we have all been there in our society. We don't talk about perimenopause. Nobody tells us about perimenopause. We know menopause is coming, but we really don't know what to do about it. And it's not about willpower.
I feel so seen and heard by you. I love it. Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the ReBootology Health Natural Solutions for Health and Happiness of the Modern Woman podcast with me, Rachel Winstead. You can reach Monica Paz at Nourished Functional Nutrition or follow her on social media, which will be linked in the show notes below. If you would like to hear more of this episode or future or other episodes, you can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to click the like button and subscribe to this show on YouTube if you're listening on YouTube. And subscribe to the newsletter, Monica's newsletter or mine, for great health tips and to be the first to know when new episodes drop. I look forward to talking with you all again soon. And please, please, please check our show notes. There are so many great apps and books, and we'll try to link all those below. Have a great day.